How's it going, everybody? It's time for my F1 2024 predictions. And what better time to do it than on the first day of testing, where in less than 24 hours it will all be proven wrong. So let's just jump straight into it. I'm gonna start with the constructors and then move on to the drivers. In 10th place I have Haas. Gene Haas does not want to spend money on this team. He does not want to invest in it. That's why they fired Gunther. And if you don't invest in Formula 1, you're gonna be left behind. Even Ayo Komatsu himself said that he's predicting that they will be last come Bahrain, and that does not strike me with a lot of confidence. In 9th place I have put Stake. Now there isn't much excitement about Sauber at the moment. They're kind of in this transition period while they're waiting out for Audi. Now again, they may be decent at the start of the season like last year, but I don't think their in-season development is going to be that great, where they'll be able to challenge the guys ahead of them. In 8th place, I have Williams. Williams has a great trajectory at the moment. James Vowles really strikes me as a competent person where he's taking the team in the right direction. However, I don't think they'll be quite good enough to challenge the guys ahead of them just yet. They're more so looking towards 2026 and onwards. In 7th place, I have Alpine. Alpine is in a bit of a crisis at the moment. They have a revolving door of team principals, and I don't really see them taking a huge step at this moment. Even Esteban Ocon didn't sound very confident in one of the interviews that I've seen, and I think they could be as low as 7th this year. In 6th place, I'm gonna put VCarb. AlphaTauri finished really strongly last year, and I don't really see any reason for them not to continue their good trajectory. They're not going to challenge the big guys up top, but I think they can overtake everybody else. I think 6th is a really realistic target for them this year. In 5th place, I have Aston Martin. The second half of last year was not great for them. Now, Aston Martin, with all their new impressive infrastructure and all these amazing personnel, they've got everything they need to succeed and challenge the guys up top in the coming years. Just not quite yet. I think they're a couple more years out. In 4th place, I have got McLaren. McLaren have really gotten their stuff together. They're looking a lot more like the top team they were before 2014. And I think they're going to be regularly challenging the two teams that I put ahead of them. I think in a couple of years, there's no reason why they couldn't even challenge for the top spots. But I put them 4th for this year. In 3rd place, I'm gonna go with Mercedes. Lewis would not have left if he was entirely happy with the W15's development. I don't believe that. If he was like, oh yeah, the development's going great, we're gonna be able to challenge Red Bull again in the next couple of years, then he would stay there. I don't think it's gonna be horrendous. Again, I put them 3rd. I think they're still gonna be really good, and I think they'll probably have learned a lot from last year. They'll probably have rectified a lot of mistakes. But I just don't think they're going to be passing the second team, which I have put as Ferrari. And they were most often the second fastest team last year, and I think they're going to continue that trend. They're definitely going to take a good step, and they might actually get several wins. But I don't think it's going to be enough to beat out Red Bull, which I put in first place, to absolutely nobody's surprise. You don't close a gap like that in 1 year. Even if Red Bull stood still, they would still have a pretty good shot at the title. And their development looks really good. They've gone for some aggressive ideas. I just don't see anybody properly challenging Red Bull this season either. I don't think it's going to be as bad as last year, fingers crossed. But I'm afraid it could very well be more of the same this year as well. But I'm excited to find out what happens. Moving on to the drivers now. In 20th place, I have Kevin Magnussen, because Haas is at the bottom, and I think Hülkenberg is gonna beat out Magnussen, so that's why he's there. In 19th place, I have put Zhou. I don't think he's gonna take a huge step up this year. Last year was okay, but he wasn't extremely impressive by any stretch. He sometimes did show some signs of promise, namely Spain, where he was in amongst it a lot, but that's about it. I think 19 is a realistic spot for him. In 18th place, I have put Logan Sargent. Much like Zhou, I don't think he's gonna improve a lot. He was significantly slower than Albon throughout last year. He crashed a bunch of times, and he didn't really show too many signs of improvement in terms of pace. And I don't think it's gonna be that different of a story this year, so I'm gonna put him 18th. In 17, I have Nico Hülkenberg. I put him 3 spots ahead of Magnussen, but I don't think that's because he's going to be massively outperforming Magnussen. I think Magnussen's going to be much closer to him this year than last year. There's a good chance he may be more comfortable during qualifying especially. The reason I put Hülkenberg 17th is just because I think he's going to beat out Sargent and Zhou, but not by a lot. In 16th place, I have Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri has slowed down a lot since 2021. He's in the twilight of his career. He's having fun at the back, but I still think he's going to beat out Zhou, so 16th for Bottas. In 15th place, I have Alex Albon, and looking at what I predicted for the constructors, this is as best as I can put him. He's going to be carrying Williams again, I think, but there won't be much more he can do in that Williams, so 15 I think is a good spot for him. In 14th and 13th place, I have Gasly and Ocon. These guys are so evenly matched. I think they finished finished like 4 points apart or something last year, even though Ocon had a lot more DNFs than Gasly. And I think it's going to be pretty much the same story this year, with Ocon slightly ahead of Gasly, I think. In 12th place, I have Yuki Tsunoda. He has definitely taken a very good step in 2023, and I think we're going to see more of the same. I don't think he's going to keep improving massively, so I think 12th is a good place for him. In 11th place, I have Lance Stroll. I think he's going to continue to struggle in that Aston Martin next to Alonso. He's still going to put in decent performances from time to time, but I think on most days he's still going to be noticeably behind, so 11th place for Stroll. In 10th place, I have Daniel Ricciardo. I think Ricciardo is really gonna find his rhythm this year. You know, last year was not a hugely impressive by any stretch, and I put that down to having been out of the sport for 6 months. He looks very much in shape and he looks raring to go, so I think we're gonna see some pretty impressive stuff from Ricciardo this year, reminding us of that old Ricciardo that we know and love. In 9th place, I have Fernando Alonso. I think he's just going to continue to impress and put up really impressive performances. I just don't see Aston Martin challenging the top 4 teams at this moment, so I put Alonso 9th. In 8th and 7th place, I have Piastri and Norris. I think Piastri is going to take a really solid step this year. It's going to be much closer to Norris, especially in the races, especially since he's gotten his first year out of the way. And the McLaren boys are going to continue to impress. In 6th place, I have put George Russell. I think George is going to have a much better season this year. He's going to be closer to Lewis in the races, and I think we're going to see more of that great consistency that we saw in 2022, for example. In 5th place, I have put Carlos Sainz. I think we're just going to see more of the same Carlos this year, you know, really consistent, solid drives, close to Leclerc in some of the races. So yeah, 5th for Carlos. In 4th place, I have Lewis Hamilton. Mercedes is not going to be the absolute best, but you can bet your bottom dollar that Lewis will try to extract as much as possible and have a really strong finish to his Mercedes career. In 3rd place, I have Sergio Perez. I think Sergio is going to have a much better season this year. He looks a lot more calm, a lot more level-headed, and I feel like he's learned his lesson from 2023, where he's not going to go for anything too audacious. He's just going to calm down, do his job, get the results, get the job done. But I do think they will part ways at the end of the season, and they will get Ricciardo after seeing his impressive results this year. In 2nd place, I have Charles Leclerc. I definitely think Ferrari is going to be closer to Red Bull this year, and I think Charles is going to beat out Perez. We're going to see Leclerc impress once again, a bunch of poles, hopefully some wins, so I think Charles will be 2nd. And in 1st place, the 2024 world champion, to absolutely nobody's surprise, is Max Verstappen. He is in impervious form at the moment. Red Bull look fantastic. He looks fantastic. I think he's still going to be on top of his game. There's no reason for him not to. He's currently the best performing driver, and when you have the best driver and the best car, you usually get a world champion. And that's gonna wrap it up for the predictions. I can't wait for literally all of them to be wrong. Hopefully it's a lot more fun than last year. Fingers crossed. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and see you around.